Oh, there she is. On with everybody? Okay, it's 5:15, 16 now. Go ahead and start the meeting. Just confirming that we've got all of our sites on. Think we're good? Okay, great. All right. Welcome everybody to our December board meeting. I'm already starting off on the wrong foot. Let me call the roll. Dr. Lee?
Here.
Mr. Hoover?
Here.
Miles is here. Geronimo and Tuan are not here tonight. Okay. We'll move on to approval of the agenda. I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that carries unanimously. We're on to 1.3 public comment. Do we have any public comment tonight?
So we do not have any public comments here in person today. So I will check if there are any public comments out of our school sites. Vista Charter Middle School, are there any public comments?
No public comments.
Vista Horizon Global Academy, are there any public comments?
No public comments.
Palm Lane Global Academy, are there any public comments?
No public comments.
Vista Meridian Global Academy, are there any public comments?
No public comments.
Vista Lago Global Academy, are there any public comments?
No public comments.
So that concludes the public comments.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we'll move to our consent items. We have 4 consent items on the calendar, 2.1 through 2.4. I'll take a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay, hearing everybody, that's unanimous. All right, that passes our consent items. We'll move on to 3 information discussion items, and we'll start with Superintendent's report. Dr. Felch.
All right. And Mario, do we have the clicker for the slides? Okay. Welcome to December, final board meeting of 2025. And we're going to start with some well-deserved celebrations and recognitions. So first, I want to celebrate our certificated employee of the month, and it is Miss Janine Casolari from Condor. And as her former principal, I could say a lot of amazing things about Janine, but I'm going to share what 2 of her colleagues shared about her when they were nominating her for Employee of the Month. So first is from Miss Brianna Hernandez, which I understand is her TA. So she said, Miss Janine is a selfless, kind-hearted, and dedicated teacher who goes above and beyond to provide for her students. Her positive attitude is a blessing, and her compassion for others makes working with her a wonderful experience. And her second grade partner, Miss Del Reino, said, Janine has shown consistency through her kindness towards others. She is always supporting others even when no one is watching. She is rarely highlighted for all that she has done for so many years, and this would be a wonderful opportunity to do so. So congratulations, Janine. And after we do all of the recognitions, the board will come up and we'll do pictures. Next, I would like to recognize Miss Mano from Palm Lane. And I want to share what Miss Eli said about Miss Mano. Miss Mano is a teacher's aide who consistently goes above and beyond. She's always friendly, patient, and patient with the students, and she knows exactly how to support teachers without needing to be asked. She is down on the floor with the littles and engaged in every single lesson. We all love and appreciate Miss Mano, and I would love, in all caps, to see her recognized district-wide. Congratulations, Miss Mano. And we have a parent duo as our parents of the month, and it is Mr. Armando Flores and Miss Leslie Acevedo Hernandez. And they are not only Condor parents, but they also happen to work at Condor and Heritage too. So this is what Miss McHugh said about Mr. Armando and Miss Leslie. They pour so much love, time, and energy into Vista. They really have integrated their family with Vista, and we are really lucky. From academically to running the fun, in all caps, after school clubs, they do it all. Thank you. And we have one more special recognition this month, and it is for Miss Amy McCahan, who is I think she might have had the record for the number of Vista schools that she's worked at over the past 10 years. She just hit her 10-year Vista anniversary this past week, and over the past 10 years, she has worked as a sixth grade teacher at Heritage. Then she moved to Condor and was a third grade teacher at Condor. And now she moved to Lago and is teaching first through third grade at Lago. And I can tell from working with Amy for, gosh, over 8 years now, but as her principal for about 5 years, that she's just an extraordinary teacher. She's an extraordinary colleague. She's an extraordinary person. And she's also taken on a number of teacher leadership opportunities over the past decade. She's been on multiple schools, ILTs, instructional leadership teams, and she's also on the Global Teacher Leader Network, and just has been such a champion for global education within our schools. So Amy, congratulations on a decade of dedication, and thank you for all that you do. And now I'd like to invite the board to come up for some photos. All right, let's give one more round of applause to what amazing staff and parents we have. All right, so as we move on with the superintendent's report, I'm going to organize it along the lines of the three priorities of our strategic plan. And the mantra of our strategic plan is getting amped. And as many of you know, that acronym stands for Accelerate Learning, Move as One, and Pave the Path with it, which are the three priorities in our strategic plan. So as we start with accelerating learning, I want to highlight the student-led conferences that each of our schools did over the past month plus. And in particular, I know that all of our schools did student-led conferences, but I'd like to highlight Lago and Miss Garcia Palayo in particular. She worked with her students to develop individualized slide decks for them to go through with their students. And the student-led conferences are a really powerful tool where the students are really taking ownership of their learning, of their progress, because they're the ones that are facilitating this meeting and basically presenting to their parents their learning. So kudos to Lago and to Miss Garcia Palayo and really to all of our schools in doing this incredible work. I'd also, as we focus on accelerate learning, I'd also like to highlight the CARE tool that all of our schools are using to conduct classroom observations and compile data. And this month in particular, we have different observation protocols and look-fors. But this month, I'd like to highlight English language arts. So far this year, between our schools, and this was taken last week, so maybe there are a few more entries so far. But we've done 142 classroom observations just in English language arts so far this year. As you can see from the screen, based on the number of observations per school, and the high-level items, in particular, looking at student engagement. It does look a little low. So the average student engagement for all of those 142 observations is at 65%, and about half of the classrooms showed had at least 80% of the students that were actively engaged. I'd also like to highlight the look-fors, and there are particular look-fors and a particular rubric that we use to score these on a scale of 1 through 4. But overall, vocabulary has been at, and I can't read that, so I need to look at my vocabulary was at a 2.5, reading 2.7, discourse 2.4, and writing at a 2.6 overall. And so on that scale of 1 through 4, 1 is seeing the indicators or not seeing the indicators at all. A 2 is seeing it some of the time. A 3 is seeing it most of the time, and a 4 is seeing those indicators all the time. So wanted to highlight those and really thank our principals and our administrators and our instructional coaches for consistently getting in the classroom and doing these real powerful observations and also providing the feedback. It's not just about this data that we see. Most of the work is really about the coaching and the feedback that we provide to our teachers. Okay, as we shift to the second priority, moving as one, I want to highlight the home visits that our schools are doing. And again, even though I'm going to highlight Vista Charter Middle School, multiple Vista schools conduct home visits. And this is not just a traditional home visit that schools might do for intervention purposes, whether it's attendance intervention or academic or behavioral intervention. Our schools are really being proactive and using these as opportunities to celebrate our kids too. And so I wanted to highlight Vista Charter Middle School as they recognized their students with awards. They during a PD day, they had all of their staff go out to the homes of students and celebrated our students with awards. And I want to share a quote by Mr. Summer. Home visits are a small activity that make a big difference. And that really encapsulates the power of these home visits. As we move as one, we also, Vista conducted or held its inaugural Inter-Vista soccer tournament with our 4 elementary schools, Condor, Palm Lane, Lago, and Horizon, competed in a friendly, let's say. And I don't know if there were necessarily winners, but winners or losers, but they were all winners at the end of the day for really participating in this. There was a lot of school pride and overall Vista pride at the event. And I want to give a special thanks to Mr. Jimenez, our athletic director, for making this happen. And also Mr. Sanchez, our transportation coordinator, because without him, we wouldn't have been able to get there. So we had LA, Lake Elsinore, Anaheim, Condor here in Santa Ana, all come to the Salvation Army here in Santa Ana for that wonderful event. And we hope that this is the first of many. And the last slide that I'm going to share as we focus on the Move as One priority is survey data. So back in October, we conducted stakeholder surveys for staff, for students, and for parents. There were multiple questions within those surveys, but I really want to highlight the Net Promoter Scores. So the Net Promoter Scores are really a good indicator of how happy, how satisfied the stakeholders are with the school, and in terms of how likely they would recommend the school to others. And so the way that this is calculated is taking the number of 9s and 10s, subtracting that by the 6s and belows on the following question: on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend your school to others? And so you can see overall for Vista, there was a negative 39 for students. I'll get to that in a second. For staff, there was a +9, and for parents, it was a +85. And so as I quickly go through the student, staff, and parents, and just so the board knows, last month I met with every single principal and we discussed each individual school's data with the surveys. So those schools that or the data that isn't quite as hot, we already have had those discussions and have some plans to try to turn that around. And we will be doing this same type of survey in the second trimester and ultimately in the third. So hopefully we'll see some improvement on those. But overall, we did see some negatives. Heritage, Lago had a slight negative, and Meridian for the student net promoter scores. And again, I've met with Ms. Alessandro, Dr. Creo, and Mr. Prano to discuss that. For the staff net promoter score, the one that was in the negative was Heritage, and again, Ms. Alessandro and I discussed that, and we feel like we have a plan to turn that around. And all of the parent net promoter scores were positive. So the parents are definitely appreciating their experience with Vista. Overall, some of the numbers that might be a little lower are also from lower response rates. And one of the things that I'm going to be working with the principals on as we get into the second and third trimester is really trying to get more responses. So that way we can have some more accurate data about how all staff, all students, all parents are feeling. And as we round the corner to our third and final priority in our strategic plan of paving the path, you can see that picture in the background of the Palm Lanes public hearing, and I will touch on that in just a second. But first, an enrollment update as we pave the path towards continued growth in our schools. You can see the change from last month. The one I want to highlight is the one that might stick out to you. Palm Lane did have 13 students transfer out over this past month. I asked Ms. Prado about that, and a lot of students have been impacted by the immigration activities, and some had to move back to their home country. Some families moved out of state. Some families moved to a different city, and so every single one of those 13 students is because they moved out of the area. So there wasn't a single disenrollment for any other reason outside of moving out of the area. So it is difficult to see, but I know that Ms. Prado and her team and the community school coordinator, Ms. V, are really working with our families to try to make sure that they get the resources and the support that they need. And as you can see, you can also see the updated progress towards the current enrollment goal. Soon, in the coming months, we're going to start to take a look at next year's enrollment goals as since the open enrollment window has opened. So as we start to get more enrollment, as we get closer to our lottery date, we're going to start to have an eye on that. As we look at attendance, that's another thing that we are focusing heavily on. There is a lot of red in that. November was not the best month in terms of attendance. We did see a dip in particular on Monday, November 10th, which was the Monday right before Veterans Day, because we had the Tuesday off for the holiday. And so there were a large amount of students who took a 4-day weekend for that. But in addition to that, we've also seen the weekly attendance numbers start to dip, and so we'll definitely be working with each school site to see what we can do to again provide some intervention and support to our students to make sure that they the barriers to attending are reduced. I also added in the year-to-date attendance recovery days, and this month I also added in a projected amount that of funding that has been recovered through attendance recovery. I want to thank Arturo for providing a spreadsheet that helps approximate that amount of ADA recovered. Lago has 0, but I know that I've been working with Dr. Creo on the updated spreadsheet and getting that number updated. But we started late, so this attendance recovery might seem low. I know we have higher aspirations for recovering lost ADA, and so I know that we didn't really get going until late October for the most part, and even then, the numbers that we were seeing were relatively low in attendance recovery sessions. So I'm encouraged by the growth in number of students attending attendance recovery sessions, and even learning from what other schools are doing with attendance recovery, I think is going to really help us out as we go into the second semester. And lastly, I want to highlight as we pave the path, I want to highlight the charter renewal petition process. We're going through 2 charter renewals as we speak. One is imminent on Wednesday of this week, December 10th. The Anaheim Elementary School District is going to vote on Palm Lane's charter renewal, and happy to share that the Anaheim Elementary School District has published their staff report and is approving or is recommending approval of Palm Lane's petition and has not published findings. They just had a few red lines and that was it. So excited for that. And definitely looking forward to Wednesday. And I would like to invite everyone here to come on Wednesday if you're available at 6:30. Come on down to the Anaheim Elementary School District Board meeting. And then Condor's charter petition was submitted to OCDE last week on Wednesday, on December 3rd. And so now that clock has started as well. And so we're anticipating, in all likelihood, I haven't gotten confirmation yet from them, but in all likelihood, we're probably looking at a beginning of February public hearing and a beginning of March decision. And oh yeah, that's it. Questions?
Any questions, board members?
Okay, thank you so much for sharing your, I feel like the information that we're being presented with is comprehensive enough that we're seeing a good picture of what's happening at all the schools. I just have some minor follow-ups because you did mention that you had conversations with the principals. Regarding the, I'll just reference this slide real quick. The stakeholder survey data. I'm curious to know what was the follow-up with the principals in what was surprising to them and what was affirming to them when they saw this data.
I don't think there was that much that was surprising.
Okay.
And meeting with that. So I think a lot of it was validating especially for the principals who saw really exemplary data. It was really reaffirming, especially with the parents. It validated a lot of the hard work and the partnerships that they've been building. With the students, again, these are some areas that I think the principals kind of knew that they had a good kind of temperature check of how things were going. And a lot of the time they already have plans. Like I didn't, before I even met with them, they already had things that they wanted to work on. I do want to point out Lago in particular. We were able to, it was an anonymous survey. However, we knew what days certain classes took the survey. And so it also kind of helped us break down the data in terms of like how things are going. And when we did, it wasn't a surprise because we knew that one class was a larger class and just has been through a lot. And so that was not a surprise. And we're actually working to, as Lago's enrollment grows again, looking to open up another class at Lago and try to reduce those class sizes. So those are some things that we're really working on to make sure that we're turning things around.
Okay, no, that's helpful. And then I would also just advise a different type of data collection method for students because surveys don't exactly capture all that goes into how they're feeling that day of the week, that time, if it's before lunch, if it's after lunch, what have you. So I'd be curious to know what that instrument looks like. Just because again, with students, depending on the age, even you might get richer testimonies through just a different method of collecting that. Looking at this, I have more questions than anything, which is good. But the follow-up, I would be curious to know, do students, parents, and teachers, do they know the survey data and how affirmed or surprised are they? Because if they're also not surprised, right, then we can be proactive in doing something about it. We can also think of different collection methods together. But if they look at this and they're thinking, I would never have thought XYZ, that warrants a different conversation, right? Because they also have a really good pulse of what's happening in the classroom.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. And I can share that with all the teachers and staff between last week and this week, I am meeting with each school staff at their professional development to go through a second quarter presentation, but this is one of the things that we're touching on.
Is there a risk for sharing this information just overtly with students and parents?
I don't necessarily see a risk because it's high level data. So I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for students, it might be eye-opening for them.
would,
Like,
yep.
oh, I actually don't feel that way. XYZ happened, whatever, right? But I think, like I said, sharing this outright without any explanation, people will make assumptions about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't say very much. It draws more questions.
Yep.
So I would just color it more with the testimonies that we know of,
100%.
of what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah, if I could jump into one clarifying question. I know you said the response rates were kind of leading to that. Do we know about what the average response rate for students were?
Students was actually the best because we had we had the teachers do it in class.
Yeah.
So I want to say it was about a 75 to 80% response rate for students in third grade and above.
Got it.
And then for teachers, it was about 50%. So that was lower than I was hoping for. And so I'm going to be working with the teacher or the principals to do it during professional development instead of on their own time.
Got it.
And then with parents, 5 to 10%. And so my hope is to work with the principals and align it with like an open house, like one of the student-led conferences or things like that, or even a coffee with the principal that parents are already at the school.
Yeah. So I appreciate the comments, right? Time of day, when you take the survey, that does impact. So I think as a district, as you grow, really thinking about how these are administered, what we communicate, but very importantly, I would say it's very important to share these results with your stakeholders and so that their voices are heard, right? If I go to sit to take a survey and I don't have anybody following up on it, the next time I take the survey, I'm going to be even more
Exactly.
upset. So I would use this as an opportunity, right? As we look to not just, I would use it as an entry point as we're doing. So to learn more, to share, to let people know their voices are heard. And I know we're getting to the budget presentation and all the things, but there are things we can do that are just fun, like the school or the class with the highest participation for these in terms of donuts, coffee, whatever, just making sure that when we look at this data, because to hear your point that 5 or 10% of our parents filled this out, the data is not as nearly as reliable as when it's 80% or above.
Exactly.
So appreciate you sharing the data, but I do just agree that I am curious, and I would recommend that there is follow-up plans based on it because it's depending on the time of the day, it's depending on how you're hearing, but if we're going to ask them for their input, we want to make sure that we're engaging them authentically.
Here, I'll jump off that too. I'd be curious to know the frequency of this type of survey because I think that's important. I remember the last time, many meetings ago, you shared about the summer retreat that happened with staff and how they were just elated in starting the school year together. It would have been great to actually survey them right after that retreat to see how hopeful they are feeling going into the school year. And then during the school year, survey them again to see what's changed and over what time, and then you'll get it over the seasons.
Yep.
You'll know when your low points are and then when your high engagement points are with staff, parents, and teachers. But yes, agreed. And then maybe you'll get more entries during specific seasons and that will yield even more questions, but definitely more than once.
Oh yeah, and so we did October. We're planning a second trimester one, I think in February, and then towards the end of the year in like May.
Okay.
So 3 times
so
throughout the year. Yeah.
We would want to know then by February what the incentive will be to increase the number of participants across these three groups, right? Because it can't be administered in the same way, because then you'll get this perhaps the same percentage of people participating. And agreed, if you don't follow up, then they're going to think, oh, what was I doing this for? Yeah. Even sharing like what your intentions with the data will be provides that level of authenticity of this is how we use data to guide our decision making.
Can I jump onto this slide? I know you have other questions, but yeah, and I want to first say, again, visibility is the best part for our whole system. And so seeing it is really helpful. There are a lot of positive numbers here. We all know that responses to surveys is not always easy to do. So all of those things we understand, but I do think that you know, it's important that we make sure that we are tracking this information for a reason to get better and to continue to know how we're doing. So it's not about trying to get the data we want. It's about getting real data
Yep.
that'll allow us to inform our decisions and to make good judgments about how we move forward. And that's the way I think you guys are looking at it, which is perfect. And we care, you know, so I think we will be excited to see February.
Yep.
And how, you know, I think Kelly hit it on the head. It's like, how can we do this so that we're not, you know, getting the 5% of the parents that happen to be in the office at that moment, you know, which is, I mean, again, I get it's hard to do this operationally, but how do we do this better? Because especially with parents, while I love seeing the numbers, they're very vocal, important, hard to get, you know, opinions from. And so students, you can get the opinions from pretty rapidly, but parents are pretty tough sometimes. So the more we can do that, the better. So, okay, I'll leave that slide.
I would actually just, I don't know if this interests the board. I would love to see the survey, right?
Yeah.
And like,
Okay.
is there different categories of like safety, belonging, or is it?
There are, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, if we could see that as a board, we'd love to see that at a future board meeting, just to know what is kind of leading to these indicators and what else might we be able to, insights might be able to gather for action.
Yeah, and I don't think you have to, I mean, you don't care if it comes to the board meeting as long as we get it. Is that right?
Yeah, I could
Yeah,
just send that to
shoot
you.
it
Yeah.
out to us so we can see it. That'd be great. Thanks.
And then I also wanted to shout out, kind of going backwards, but the student-led conferences. Wow. I mean, I have not heard of this type of conversation with parents flipped on its head in this way. So first of all, kudos, I think, to the leadership and the teachers for putting in that extra time to mentor students to build their confidence and capacity to do that. I would love to know the process in which a teacher, an administrator, went through with that student to build their capacity. I feel like there's that, I know I've mentioned this before, but there's that codification that's missing because there's a power to showing how a student enters a classroom, their current, you know, abilities, knowledge, etc., and then showing the growth over time in being able to help them amplify their voice to speak to an adult in this confident manner. Even if it was short clips with, you know, a couple students that allowed for it and parents that would allow for it, I think that this is what would be appealing to families that haven't seen learning in a different way, right? Because, yeah, I think that there's something really special about that, but it's not magic. It doesn't just happen, right? There's a lot of time, energy, intention, and thought that goes into developing something like that. But when it's just a slide with a picture or even on the newsletter, again, it begs more questions of like, how did they actually do that? And can they share that? Can that be a model? What have they learned from it? How do we know that students, you know, cognitive abilities or speaking abilities or testing abilities or reading abilities are improving because they're able to articulate what they're learning and what the challenges are and, you know, where they need support or where they're really happy. I think that there's a missed opportunity there that I would like to see expanded if possible, not to throw more work on anybody, but I feel like if it's built into the process, a couple artifacts here and there, I think would help to just highlight that better. Yeah, but it's an amazing process from what I can see and what I've already gleaned. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great
Thank
job.
you.
I was curious, I want to highlight what Miles had shared. I appreciate, and I know actually, it's what Dr. Lee shared in terms of presenting the vision and the plan and aligning, and I feel like we're getting a good picture. I was curious though about the classroom observation tool, CARE. Is this the first year that we've been using this, or is it?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that something that we created internal, or is that like a national CARE? You know what I mean? Is it standardized? Or is it?
No, both. So
Okay.
it's through Attune Partners,
Oh, got it.
which is who we work with on our strategic plan. But the actual observation forms, we provide input and then they create it based on our input.
Great.
So in order to make sure that our observations are aligned with the curriculum, since we're really focused on the implementation, we worked with the publishers. All publishers have like their look fors, and then we use those forms to turn them into our observation forms and put them. What the CARE tool does is just makes it quick so that we can go in, check.
Got it.
Give make notes and then provide immediate feedback. But we get to provide input on
Awesome.
what the forms look like. And we really can create forms for
Sweet.
anything. But right now we're focusing on the ELA and the math.
Great.
And then as we get into it more, we'll probably have, and at the beginning of the year, we also started with what we called strong starts, just what does a Vista classroom look like? So we started with that. So it was a little like easing it in, and now we're increasing the rigor as we go through the year.
Sweet. And I would love to see that tool as well,
Mhm.
right? And like, and I think I've seen a lot of value and growth of measuring impact, right? And going through and doing observations and providing feedback. Curious if we were to ask our teachers, right? Or how does that feedback process look? Do they feel like it's a scoring evaluation system? How did that rollout work?
Initially, I mean, we shared the plan with the principals, and then they shared it with their
Got it.
teachers. As we go through each step, they'll share each step.
Mhm.
And it's new. So for example, we just started the ELA look forwards in September, and it was kind of a goal for September, October. And then we started with math in November. So we're still working, like math is still starting to pick up.
Mhm.
And it's the process of the principals learn, like, so one, we create the tools. The principals also provide feedback, and I provide professional development so they understand the tool. We calibrate. Last month at our principals meeting, we had Ms. Koima record a teacher, so we were able to watch her video and use the tool together to go through the look fors. And so now the principals will have to do that with their teachers so that they understand the tool, what we're using, what we're looking for, and so then that feedback becomes valuable to them as well. But it's a work in progress, and it's new work.
Yeah, no, but based on what you're sharing, I'm just going to let you know the way that you're thinking about it with calibration, because that was going to be a thing I was going to ask, right? Like the kind of train the trainer model, right? I would just continue to, I would love to continue to see this data, right? As we look through and like see if any progressing. And then also like, how do we, now that we're at the stages of getting calibrated and engaging our school leaders, what process is there for our teachers, right? To really have ownership into the system and see it as a tool, right? So that as you move into year 2, it's something that this is just who we are. This is what we do to get better, right? Versus, because no matter how we can communicate it as leaders, having colleagues share the benefit of a tool being something for alignment and development for our students. And so, really appreciate the explanation on that. It sounds like you're rolling out really well.
And then I had similar questions. I would love to know if teachers have opportunities to observe each other after they're evaluated, because it could be that you all are calibrating on the look fors, but they may not know what that calibration looks like yet. But to see a colleague in action, I think that is really valuable so that they can support each other, even in small groups, as you're doing these types of learning walks. And then I would want to know, similarly, like testimonies from teachers with their coaches, because I know that those relationships take time to build. So even understanding the process of the deepening of that relationship from start to the end of the year, teacher retention is really important to pay attention to. So this could be one of the factors for why teachers decide to stay and why they're thriving, because they have this additional instructional coach to work with. But there is this opportunity to collect that information, or and of course, with coaching, we have to be very careful because there is a level of confidentiality and trust that needs to be built. So of course, not sharing anything of that nature, but at least sharing the testimonies of the teacher from when they started working with a coach during that process and how their confidence is being built up. They're seeing each other teach as well. And then in the end, what value do they find from this? Yeah.
Yeah, so first of all, just real quick, I want to make it clear that the form is not evaluative. So it is just to check off and to provide feedback. And right now, this is very new. I think different principals can speak to the teachers observing each other process, because different principals do it at all of their schools for different reasons. And then I know just last month, our GTLN, our Global Teacher Leadership Network, also did some walkthroughs specifically for global, and they, then we we debriefed at our network meeting. So I think these observations are happening for different reasons. Currently, I don't know that we've started for this. I even think that the principals are not finished getting, just even the math ones, they haven't even finished getting through all their teachers yet because we just started it. So, but that being said, I am curious too about, you know, how are we approaching it? How are teachers receiving it? Definitely want to make sure that they feel supported and like the feedback is to help them grow. Definitely want to create a culture of coaching and not evaluation. And I mean, I think our principals are amazing at developing positive student cultures. It's kind of what they do. So I'm not too worried about that, but I think there still is value in hearing like what the teacher's response is and also our APs, because our APs also coach. So it's not just the principals, it's the APs as well.
Yeah, I'll just add, I love that you're videoing and like doing that for analysis. One thing that we've heard from our teachers is, especially in the beginning of the year when we're doing new teacher PD or PD, they really get value from seeing videos of our teachers show what that engagement move looks like or show it in action. Because we've used videos from other organizations and you kind of get the, oh, that's not our schools or they can't do it here. And we've used it though as a like way to celebrate our teachers who are doing the right thing, but also like just building that, again, culture of learning and visibility of what it can actually look like in the classroom and what's possible. So I love, but again, love that you guys are laying the foundation in a way that seems really strategic and thoughtful. And so super excited. Yeah.
Okay, one more thing. Your year-to-date attendance data. I appreciate the information being given, but I was just curious to know, because you shared here year-to-date days recovered through attendance recovery, but what was the total number of absences? Because it's hard to understand if that number is high or low. And I know you also mentioned the rate might be low for the amount recovered. Again, it's really hard for me to tell if $3,000 is on the low end or on the high end for
It's not a lot.
absences? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So that means that the
This
number of
is
days
just
passed.
scratching the
I
surface.
see.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Got it. But it's a start. But in the future, as you are reporting this, if you could also give us the total number, then we
Sure.
have something to compare it to. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Any other Kellys? Okay. I just to round it out, great report. We have a lot to be proud of. I always like it when the pictures take longer than the report because of all the great people we get to honor. I think we've mentioned a lot of great things. I, of course, will want to credit Palm Lane for being recommended for approval at Anaheim Elementary, which is not always seen as being a district that has a lot of understanding of charter schools or a lot of desire to engage. So it's been great to see that relationship. So I want to do that. I also will just echo enrollment attendance questions. I probably could spend the next hour talking about enrollment and attendance for our schools. I will make it a little shorter. One thing the exit piece for the enrollments, I'm really interested in that data. It is, and how we're capturing that and how we're utilizing that, because it's, exit interviews, exit data like that is really important. It's the last time we're going to potentially see these students, and they may be leaving the country, they may be leaving the state. But I'd like to get more rich data about their experience so that we can learn from it as they're exiting, because they're probably using that moment to be truthful, both the family and the parents and the students. So that would be great. I also similarly am very interested in how our attendance process works to follow up with students. As I sent around some research that was just published by 74, and then on basically an analysis of text messages that have been sent out. And I think those kinds of research tools and some of the 3 million texts they went through to get some patterns and understanding of how people respond to text messages home about their attendance. So learning from those things and then being able to quickly implement those as a process that's happening at all of our school sites is something that I think is super important for us, because when I look at our numbers, we're focusing on it and we're taking time to do this, but let's find a way to do it as efficiently as we can because it's super important. We're not probably making as much progress as we'd like to be making. And it's sometimes easy for us to say it's the situation of the parents, it's the situation of the students, it's the situation of the world. But we're struggling and others aren't. And it helps us as we build our culture because you can see some of the culture signals coming with attendance and how that goes too from the students. So anyway, I won't harangue more than that on that, but I appreciate having the information and that we're all focused on it. So thank you for all of that. And we'll move on. Okay. 3.2, presentation of the new board member candidate.
Yes. All right. So I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Sarwat Chowdhury as a board member candidate. And Dr. Chowdhury, I'll just do a quick introduction. Her resume is amazing. So she's done a lot of work abroad. She's done work in Bangladesh, in Vietnam, in South Korea, in Papua New Guinea, really all around climate change, sustainability, the green economy, and recently she's brought her talents to UC Irvine. She's a professor there in climate change and sustainability. And actually, the way that we met her was through her work with the UN Association of Orange County. She's a board member there. And that group happens to actually hold their board meetings at Vista. So I am personally thrilled to introduce Dr. Chowdhury as a board member candidate to the Vista board. I think she would be an incredible candidate, and would love to invite Dr. Chowdhury to say a few quick words, and then also would afterwards invite the board to ask any questions. So we might need to move the podium back to the middle. Yeah.
Yeah. As we're moving the podium back, I'll just make comment that I had the pleasure of meeting Sarat a couple of months ago now. And so it was a pleasure meeting you then. I'm looking forward to hearing from you tonight and hope it was great. Hope that we will in January be able to take a vote.
Yes, and I do want to say that we are not voting today. We are just hearing from her and discussing at the board, and then the vote will be at the January 26th board meeting.
Hi, everyone. Thank you first, Superintendent Felch, for your very kind words, and also Board Chair, Mr. Duffy. I really appreciate. I had the pleasure of meeting you both. I first learned about Vista Charter Public Schools from my colleague, Dr. Catherine Real, and like Superintendent Felch was saying, it was when I went to the schools for our UNA board meetings, it was such a pleasure to see the SDG wall. And I never expected that, right? Growing up in Bangladesh, like you were saying, traveling all over the world, that's kind of my bread and butter, working on sustainable development goals and environmental issues. And it was a really nice surprise to learn about the Vista Charter public schools and your kind of, your mission and vision and how, you're looking into building up global citizens and, the building the curiosity in the students and kind of this lifelong learning approach. Sounds like cliche, but this is so important, right? Like for to be students to be kind of globally minded, and especially current at this time it's really important. And so I mean, thank you so much for inviting me, and I feel like this is such a great opportunity for me to if I can contribute some of my skills and learnings. At UCI I'm teaching sustainability courses, so that's kind of my area of I guess expertise. But I also have two kids, and my daughter just graduated from University High School this year. So I went through the public school experience, so have some of those experiences, and if I can contribute to that I mean, I do have the global background, but kind of locally, I'm really interested as a relatively new resident of this area. I'd like to contribute, and I would like to learn as well, right? So there's no end to learning. So yeah, and I have been in school boards before. When I was in Vietnam, I was in the school board for the UN International School. And yeah, it's always it's really good to kind of see what, how the decisions are being made, and the overall situation, and as a parent and as also a community member. So yeah, I think I'm going to end here, but if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you. Any questions?
No, but I would just like to add, so Sarwat and I actually have crossed paths years ago through our joint work at UCI, and she would be an amazing candidate to be on the board. She did a lot of great work through the UCI Wildfire Center, which we worked on with students and high school students to be able to develop curriculum with. And so she's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, great to see you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. I think I got all my questions out, and I'm excited to have you back in January.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, moving on to 3.3, the California School Dashboard presentation. And Karen, this is Karen, yeah. Oh, good.
Jay, always. Um, I'll go ahead and get started while Mario gets that going. And
That'd be great.
if not, it's okay. So I will be brief. I'll just give a brief overview, and I tried to the dashboard has a lot of information. I didn't want to like go deep in the weeds, but so it's very brief. It's a very general overview. So please interrupt with any questions that you might have. So first, the dashboard was just released, so it just went public for last year's data. So I wanted just to share and make sure that you have an understanding of what our dashboard looks like and what is on it, and the information for Vista Schools that was presented. And what am I doing wrong? Oh, no, that's not it. No. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Sorry. 24-25 school year. Yeah. So I'll just start with what it is, just so that just to make sure that oh, there we go. So I'll just start with what it is, and this is very brief. It's just an online tool so that any member of the public can go. You can look up any school, and you get academic data as well as data with regards to other conditions that's aligned to the state priorities. When the dashboard was created, it was intended to do two things. One, to show what's called status, so where a school is, and also to show growth, because the what was being published before was only showing status. It was only showing students who are meeting and exceeded. So this kind of changed that so that it could recognize schools for growth. And all of the schools are compared to the state. Every school and the way that the data is reported for the school is through these color gauges, red being the lowest performance and blue being the highest performance for each school. So we're going for the blue. The way that the color is determined is through a 5x5 grid. And if you go on the dashboard, it's not there. You kind of have to dig for it, but I just wanted to share with you. The top of the grid shows the change, and the side of the grid shows the status. And depending on the number, each grid for each area is different. It looks a little bit different, but depending on how the state determines that the cutoffs are, that's how they place a school on the grid. And that's how the color is determined. So in this grid specifically, this is actually Palm Lanes. You'll see that they're orange for all students, but it also gives you the data for student groups. So they're also orange for socioeconomically disadvantaged students and Hispanic or Latino students. But this is how the color is determined. The grid has different numbers for the different indicators, but it's basically decline, maintain, or increase for change, and then high, medium, or low for status. And then there's a number of indicators that show on the dashboard that are aligned to the LCFF priorities, the state's LCFF priorities. The state indicators are the ones that it's based on data that's reported to the state from testing, from CalPADS, and so on and so forth. And then the local indicators, our principals complete a reflection every year, and based on that reflection, it is determined whether we meet or we don't meet that standard. So family engagement, school climate, and access to a broad course of study are all local indicators, and they're determined by school leaders and submitted. So the next slides just show the dashboard for each school. So this is Horizon, and the Horizon has, you'll see that it has the state indicators, and then the ones that say standard met, none of our local indicators, or none of our local indicators said standard not met. Those are the local ones that, like I said, the teachers submit. And then the colors for Horizon, so in chronic absenteeism, they're blue, their suspension rate is blue, that's really high. And then for our English learner progress, that the number on the grid is determined through the English language progress indicator. So Horizon's at a yellow. And then for math and ELA, the number on the grid is determined by what the state calls the distance from standard. So whatever the standard is, they average it out. And if you're below standard or above standard, that's how that number is determined. So that's both for ELA and math. So this is Horizons. Again, please take a look and feel free to ask questions. And at the end, I'm also going to share growth, so you'll see the change over time. This is Vista Charter Middle Schools. So you're going to see that all of our schools are either blue or green in suspension rate. It's not a common practice for us to suspend. And then you'll see that in the academics, schools range from red to yellow depending on the year. This is Palm Lanes dashboard. Again, very similar. Vista Condors, Vista Heritage, and then Vista Meridian. For Meridian, just something I wanted to point out is at the high school, there is an indicator for graduation rate in college and career. Those two they don't have a color because they only have a status currently. They don't have a change. So since last year was the first graduating class, there's nothing to compare it to from previous years. And then just the other thing for you to note is that if you go in the dashboard and you click on each one of these gauges, it'll open up to, again, more detailed information for each school. So then the next slides show progress over time. So we'll start with Horizon. So again, you'll notice that in 2023, or sorry, 2023, there was no English learner progress because they only had a status and not a change. So there was no color. And then you'll see that over time, some of the areas have grown. Math last year, we shared within our data, math last year had a dip, so that color went down. You'll also notice the enrollment is there. So as enrollment increases, that does play into the status and change for each school. The next one is Vista Charter Middle. And similarly, you'll see the change in enrollment and then the different color gauges for Vista. And you'll see that the chronic absenteeism has improved drastically at Vista. English learner progress has also improved. And then there was a bit of a dip in the math. Next is Palm Lane. Oh, so Palm Lane, similarly, there was a dip in chronic absenteeism. And I know that there's a lot of work happening at Palm Lane regarding chronic absenteeism. And then a dip in ELA, and then the rest remain consistent. For Vista Condor, there was a dip in chronic absenteeism. Enrollment also went up significantly. And then there was growth in math, significant growth in ELA, which we're really proud of, and significant growth in English learner progress as well. Vista Heritage, again, you'll see the enrollment down the line. They also had some pretty significant growth in ELA and math, so you'll see that. Chronic absenteeism improved, and then English learner progress continues to be an area of focus. Vista Meridian doesn't have they don't have gauges over time, so just the gauges that you saw at the beginning, because like I said, a lot of the data is new for Meridian, so most of their gauges are still gray. There's no change, there's just status. So next year we'll start to see, we'll be able to start reporting gauges over time. And then finally, a few other data points that are reported. There's actually a lot more, but just a few of the bigger ones that I wanted to note. Science, so the state will start looking at science. So currently it's just on there for informational purposes. But eventually there will be a status and a change that will get reported for science. And then the other thing that's being reported now is the teacher assignments. So that's being reported every year, just appropriately credentialed teachers, and the percentage will be showed on the dashboard. The other thing that I didn't show over time is just the demographic data, not over time, the demographic data. So again, as you look at dashboard and gauges, it's really important to note the demographic data. A school with like this one with 97% socioeconomically disadvantaged students will obviously have different results than a school with maybe like 40%. So same with the English learner and foster youth population. So you get to see that for each school. And then the last thing that I wanted to note was just the conditions in the climate gets reported every year. And this is based, so it's just data related to how the environment that schools are providing. And this is measured in suspensions. And you'll see that the majority of our schools are blue. And then based on the suspensions, Vista Heritage and Vista Meridian are green, but all the other schools are blue. And yeah, suspension is not very common thing, so. And that is it for the dashboard. Questions? Again, I know this is a very broad information, but there's just so much detailed information. I wasn't sure what.
Any questions? I'll ask one question. Academic achievement in our schools is probably my biggest priority for us. Trying to find the words to express my feelings about the California dashboard process. But how do you use the California dashboard process to best inform academic achievement improvement at our schools, because it's very convoluted, and I know it was an attempt to make it simple for people. But I find other data that you've brought us much more helpful to me to understand where we're struggling and where we're not, and maybe why we're struggling in those areas. So I guess the question again is how do you all utilize this information, or what do you rely on, and what should we rely on as board members to help monitor and provide input and help on the academic achievement side of the house?
So I think our principals spend a lot of time on this, and they do dig in pretty deeply. It's just because the data is public, so we want to know and be prepared for and understand, you know, what's going to be reported and what's going to be out there for everybody to see. I do agree with you. There are a lot of other data points that we use that we plan. Like, you can't really make a plan from this dashboard data. Um, Except for, you know, our plan is always to do better, but then we'll use our diagnostic data or even actual smarter balanced test data, because you could see that at a more of a student level, which is where we like to be. We like to be at the student level, not the broad level. But it does help, you know, knowing levels of chronic absenteeism, and this is where we're at, and kind of gives us an idea of where we need to go and what we need to improve on. Last year, actually, the ELPI, the English Learner Progress Indicator, was this huge mystery to us, and because we try to get ahead of it. We try to know what's going to be published before it gets published. So, you know, Dan and I, we took all his English learners, we did the math. We're like, okay, come on, let's see if we could figure this out ourselves. And our calculation came out to 43%, and then 44% was published on the dashboard. So we're like, okay, good. Now we know how to do the math. So now we can use that to really, you know, again, pinpoint our language learners and see who we're going to move, and so on and so forth. I think for us, it's just really getting ahead of things. This is the data that districts use for renewal. And then we're all middle track schools, so we also know that they rely a lot on our verified data, and we work on that as well. So I think, you know, it's just continued planning. It's just knowing just what's out there, what the public is going to see, and really helping us prepare narratives for, you know, we just had a meeting last week where somebody was like, oh, your test scores are low, and these other schools are doing this. And we're like, yeah, well, yeah, we also have 99% socioeconomically disadvantaged students. It's not impossible, but it's going to be more of a challenge and require more support and resources for students. So I think for us, just understanding this is really what's the story that this shows, and how do we, you know, support the narrative. But I think for, like you said, for achievement and academics, because this also gets public, like this is data from last year. So there's other data that helps us target students and learning in a more proactive way.
So I first want to commend you, your explanation. I'm familiar with this dashboard, and I think you did a pretty good job, right, explaining kind of the change, right, and the colors and the indicators. But I think to the question here, I think things come down to inputs and outputs for academic achievement, right? And so it's the instructional materials, it's what our teachers are, what they're providing in the classroom, how well students are doing on classroom assessments. Because I'm curious to the point of, I know that, correct me if I'm wrong, the verifiable data is the iReady data that we're
For
doing.
us, yeah.
Are we seeing correlation, right, with the amount of time students are spending on iReady with achievement on like assessments with CAST or state tests? Are we seeing that?
We are.
Okay. Because that's something that I would be curious to look at when we see stuff like this, because, you know, what action, what we're taking when a school's in the red for English language learners, right? What are we doing, right, to address that both at a curriculum level and also with, I know you said small groups and et cetera, but mathematics and English seem to be areas of focus. And it's great to know that we're doing things like the observations and the feedback. But I think I would be curious to know kind of the connection of these results with what we're looking at to know what's working and what's not. Just because and I'm sure you're doing all these things, and I know the point of this was to share this dashboard, but I think in terms of, to the point of, we've been talking a lot about attendance. We're all fairly new board members, and we're getting, you know, we're learning about the schools, but now as we're here, really, we're here for achievement, right? And like you said, you know, we serve a population that does have high need, but that shouldn't be an excuse for any achievement that we have, right?
Yeah.
It should be the thing that we can stand behind.
Mhm.
Because we have a great culture, right? Kids in terms of wanting to be there, and it shows in the events, and our teachers that care. How are we going to accelerate academic achievement? So thank you.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness. I feel like this doesn't paint a comprehensive enough picture when you're looking at just the scores and what they are. But I remember early summer you presented, and maybe that was the iReady data that was this colorful. And I say that because I think sharing about the shifts is going to be one of the strategies that you have to take, meaning when a student starts at Vista, where are they coming in and what gains is that student making compared to when they first started? When they're transferring from another school, right? Where are they starting in their progression and how far have we been able to push them to reach their fullest capacity? That doesn't show on the dashboard,
100%.
right? So there's so much that's missing here, but I feel like we can tell that story given the data that we've seen, as long as we're intentional with trying to capture it. Here, yeah, you're just seeing like, oh, it progressed. Oh, it didn't. Oh, it's in the red. Oh, this one's in the green. And I would also be curious if we shared this information with teachers, what their explanations would be, and if that would match what administrators' explanations are, because they're working with students, and I would want to know if they're seeing similar things, if they have similar recommendations. Everyone is stretched so thin
Yeah.
as well, right? There were lots of staff changes, et cetera, as well, and lots of different changes happening. But at the same time, they also know firsthand how the progress is taking shape in their classrooms. And telling those individual stories, I think, helps. So when you're seeing a red, you can say it's red, or it's orange, but actually, did you know the student started in the red? So that's a win, actually, right? There's just so much you can do with this, but I had the same question, right? This is only helpful to a certain degree, but I would also want to know, one, is it really that helpful for decision making? Why or why not? And you need to be able to, not just you, but the team needs to be able to articulate, this is what we can gather from this. This is how we can track X, Y, Z, but we actually have deeper, more detailed ways of helping us to make decisions year to year, quarter to quarter, et cetera, semester to semester. But I think being transparent about that will be essential, because you're right. When you look at it, just by face value, you're seeing colors and you have a lot of questions, but also you're making assumptions, which is not fair. And it's not equitable to the progress that actually these colors don't show at all, right?
Yeah, and I do want to say that it is helpful in decision making. Like, for example, with the chronic absenteeism in some schools, we've been able to target things differently in that way. And I think because this is public data, right, as opposed to maybe the diagnostic data that I share with you, we know that people are going to be looking at this. So there's a change that we want to make in these gauges, and there's improvement that we want to be showing in these gauges. One example is, again, the LP, right? Understanding that number, how to calculate the LP, allows us to be more proactive going into it, and knowing how do we target students, what students do we target. Same with understanding the distance from standard in ELA and math. Again, it allows us, like, oh, some students need just a few points to help our whole data move color gauge. And then lastly, our LCAP. This does and should be informing our LCAP. So where we spend our money, our resources, where our resources are going. This is also part of what informs that. Where do we need more support? You know, why do we have coaches this year and we didn't before? That also does help inform that, and it also helps the public see, see the connection between this data and then what's in our LCAP, which is also a public document.
Yeah, I think it's a beast to get through.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
100%.
When you're looking, and similarly, I'm well aware of these types of benchmarks, which they're highly problematic, but I think that you have to find the opportunity in how to tell the story.
Yeah.
Right, because the kids are more than just this, and we know this, and the teachers do more than just this, and we know this as well. And everything you mentioned, I love that you articulated it and said it out loud. And that way, this is something you hold the team accountable to, right? This is what we use this for. there are other metrics that we can use to tell that story. And I think that making that very transparent will be essential because, yeah, what do you get, like 10 seconds to be able to share the Vista story with a new person who's looking at this? So getting together and making sure that that is crystal clear on how to not even explain, but how you use data to inform. This is one piece. Yeah. You guys do so much, and I think that that part of it is in the background, but needs to be in the foreground.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for the report. And we'll move on to 3.4. We have all the principal reports in our packet, but I think tonight Dr. Carrillo is going to present to us.
Hello, hello. Very nice to see everyone again. And I can answer a lot of the questions that you had for Dr. Felch earlier regarding attendance and recovery and all of that good stuff. But very nice to see you all. The last time that I saw you all was in August, and we had just talked about, we had just opened up the doors were open, and now it's December, and let me tell you what we've done in the past 4 months, so. Oh, sorry. There we go. Okay, so Amy is not here, but I also wanted to wish her on behalf of her team and her students a happy 10-year anniversary. So that's a little shout out there. Wanted to share, I know that Dr. Felch already shared the enrollment information, and even though Vista Lago Global Academy was looking in the 60s, the number there was from our original estimated enrollment, which was 170. If you remember, though, at the last board meeting or two, we did change the enrollment number. We made some significant staffing changes so that the budget was more fiscally responsible. And we changed the enrollment target to 100. So I just wanted to highlight that and remind everyone of that, because right now we're at 108. So we passed, it's been a lot. It's been a uphill, nice journey. It's been a nice journey, but I did want to highlight that. And we do have other students that are already promising to start coming the new school year. They're going to finish off this last few weeks of at their school. So we should be getting our 110 enrollment by the time we come back, if not sooner. I wanted to mention, so there's the breakdown for enrollment. I did want to mention that in the other reports, we did notice that Vista Lago was at a low 80% in attendance. And that is something that we're currently working on. However, I was very confused because I was like, wait a minute, why am I so tired? No, I swear there's more kids here. Why are we so tired? Why are we so tired? Why is the number so low? So I was very confused. And then when I went back and I looked at the data for November, and even though Dr. Felch's report right now for attendance recovery for Lagos said 0 all the way down the line, I am excited to see what that number is going to look like when he's reviewed all of our data, because we did do a lot of manual entry that needed to be entered to be able to calculate. But once I was looking at this was like in October, and I was like, why are we so low? I started looking at our attendance data for the month of October and November, actually. Well, at the end of November, when this was our attendance, the number started jumping up. So we were not even at maybe around mid-October, my after school program, which is our attendance recovery program as well. Was like, why are we so tired? Around October 20th, our number hit 47 for the first time. 47 students in after school program, even though we had under 100 students in enrollment at the time. And the numbers just kept on going up there. It went to 52, it went to 50. I'm like, oh, that's why we're so tired once we figured it out. Dr. Felch mentioned that November, I believe it was that weekend, the Labor Day weekend, our students took a day off. They took a day off, and I only had about 36 students in after school program, but the next day it jumped up to 46 students. It hasn't gone down from that moment. We've had students over 50%. I've had last week we had 56 students in after school, 54 students in after school. So the trend is changing. The students are coming to school and they don't want to leave. Once they come in through our building, they don't want to leave. They're waiting for us to say, hey, it's time for you to go back home. But I did want to share some of those points because our climate has definitely been changing. I know that Dr. Felch also shared the information from the survey, and we saw the staff, the student, and the parent survey. So it was really interesting. That information has already been shared with the students, and that information has already been shared with the parents 2 days after Dr. Felch and I had that conversation at my coffee with the principal. And I mentioned it to the parents, and I said, I was confused. When I talked to Dr. Felch, I was like, wait a minute. And then when I looked at who it was, I was like, oh, it's the middle school. Very typical of middle school. The elementary school are very happy. All the kids are very happy, but it was the middle school. So I shared this with my parents, and I mentioned to them, I said, hey, something's going on. And I said, but you all seem to love the school. And I was like, but there's some kind of a discrepancy. We have positive 18 points from our parent survey, but your students don't seem to like us as much. And they laughed. And I was like, I think we have too many rules. We have way too many rules. You can't do this until you do that. There's very direct consequences. They love going out into the field. So the parents were like, actually, that's fine. As long as we love it and you answer our calls and I know where they are and they're safe and I know the consequences and I know you're going to do X, Y, and Z and I know you're going to address that, then I'm fine because you've addressed everything I've asked you to address. The students, on the other hand, they feel like we're constantly on top of them. Some of the students, when I spoke with them, I did mention to you, I said, hey, I saw the survey and the survey is really loud to me because I thought we had a great relationship. You're here. You all look very happy. I thought we had a different relationship. And I said, if you don't feel safe, you have to let somebody know. That's the number one thing that I'm concerned about. If you didn't give us marks because you don't feel safe, or was it because it was too early in the morning, or was it, whatever it is, but please understand that we're looking at the survey, and I am looking at culture. A lot of the students did talk about, well, the class was just getting too big. It was just getting too large. And they did have some honest opinions about, I wasn't as fair as I should have been. And even the parents said, next time, let us know when you're going to give it to the kids so that I have a conversation with my kids when, at home, so that they take your student survey the next day and you really do get the information because it's concerning to both of us. If our students don't like the school, then we need to figure it out. But between the parents and I, we were scratching our heads trying to figure it out. So I did want to share that information. But our attendance, our after school program has gone up. The kids love being there. We're preparing right now for our winter festival, and we've had to limit students how long they could stay in after school because they wanted to stay even after. Even after we started implementing tutoring after school and said you cannot go and go in the field until you do tutoring, they're taking it. They're saying, fine, I'm still going to take it. So we have a good balance going on with the students, a good conversation going on with them. And then I'm learning now, I have regular middle school students, even though we're a brand new school, I'm realizing now we're learning about each other. I know what they like and what they don't like. They all love social time. So using social time and Spirit Week, which is something that we have been going on in the school as a consequence for, not doing something, that they should have been doing, has really been helping. And they were really, really sad, believe it or not, taking away pajama day from the middle school. They took it hard. They were like, fine, okay, we promise next time pajama day, I got you. I said, okay, let's make sure we don't repeat the same thing that we've been doing. But we are having a really good relationship with the students. The attendance should be going up. The after school recovery numbers should look promising, but it definitely has gone up. October, end of October, November, and December. Educating the whole child. So here, as Dr. Felch was mentioning, we had a very successful student-led parent-teacher conferences. It is interesting being a founding team member to the team where my colleagues have been doing some of this, and I'm like, I don't know how you guys pull this off, and I'm just watching them like, and I'm expected to do that next. It's every single month that I have to do something that I've never done with my team, my kids, my parents. I'm like, all right, well, we're just gonna, what is that saying? We're gonna shoot for the moon, and if we fall short, we're gonna land on the sky. I know I butchered it a little bit, but I'm like, all right, if they said this is what we're doing, and I was nervous about student-led parent-teacher conferences. I told my teachers, I said, I just cannot freak out my teachers because if my expectation is too high for them. And I'm asking them, we're a founding school. I'm asking you to do so many different things. And so I just gave them parameters. And I said, Jackie, Ms. Garcia Pelayo did a great job. And she actually prepared scripts for all of us. That's how we actually did it. We all had scripts to open up the conference. And we all had reflection pages for every single subject level, including PE. And we didn't have one for LPAC, but I created one for LPAC. Good old ChatGPT helped me create something very similar to the other ones, and we looked at numbers. So when the parents showed up for student-led parent-teacher conferences at registration, they had tons of personalized data that was in front of them, including access to Power School. That's where I did the SART letters because I'm already addressing chronic absenteeism. That week of parent-teacher conferences, I also held SART attendance meetings and SARB meetings. And we made plans for the students that same day who had attendance issues, and we gave them packets and we gave them work to do during Thanksgiving break so that they could catch up. We also made a plan for them and say, we really need you to stay in after school. Now we're going to start saying students, hey, you don't need after school. You don't need to stay. I need the students that have not been here, who are doing attendance recovery, who are a little bit behind and need more tutoring. And everybody's been very, very flexible with that. I think student behavior, being told that there may not be enough after school spaces, is making them behave better. Because they're like, no, please, I promise, even if it's 40 of us in the field, we promise no issues, no arguments, we'll run for the ball, we'll clean up, whatever you need us to do. So they're really stepping up their game to tell us, hey, even though we're a lot, we can handle it. We can handle each other. So that was parent-led teacher conferences. It was really nice. You can see the PowerPoint there. There are 3 images of the student at different points. So all of the teachers constantly take pictures of the students' work. We share that with the families, and that's also a good reminder for them. The preparation for student-led parent-teacher conferences, the students also needed to prepare a portfolio with their data for ELA, for math, what were their goals for MOY. If they had LPAC data, they had LPAC data on there. They had percentages for my progress or my path. So they had quite a few pieces of documents there. And then they also had something they were proud of, something they were working towards as artifacts. So they did come together very prepared with folders. We had great classroom Friendsgiving potlucks, and this was the idea of our parents, and I'll tell you a little bit more about them. But we're really trying to emphasize the community school, the family school feel, and whenever we can, like in this picture where you can see the classroom Friendsgiving potlucks, that the parents came up with, and they put them together for us. We did the whole allergy list and send it appropriate to the classrooms, but we really tried to set up the students in family style, which is the way that we normally eat during lunchtime. If you come to our school, when you come to our school, you will see that the way that our lunch tables are arranged, it is straight family style. That's how we eat, that's how we share snacks and break bread together. You will also see we were very excited that we have 3 of our 9th grade students who are going to be enrolling in Mount San Jacinto this spring semester. And shout out to Dr. Real, who helped us out with that. You can see our 2 students there and our counselor, Ms. Salazar. Down at the bottom, we see our lowest of our students. We have our TK students there doing a translucent light project. They love science, anything that is hands-on. Ms. Gutierrez is doing an amazing job really keeping the kiddos engaged and super, super happy down at that level. And actually, because of the great sport that Ms. Gutierrez has done, the 1st grade and the TK kinder class, that's the one that has had the enrollment that has been continuing to spike up, which is really good. Now it's really good foundation for the future of the school. So Ms. Gutierrez has had a really large number. Ms. McCann did a great job and took some of the 1st graders. So Ms. McCann is also teaching now 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade when she wasn't teaching that in the beginning. So I have most of my teachers are teaching between 2 and 3. Most of them are teaching now 3 grade levels, preparing for math and ELA. And they're doing it with such a smile on their face, and the kids are just, working through it, and they understand the small group instruction. So that's what you are seeing here. Professional growth. It was interesting as I was trying to put the pictures together, and I was like, you know what? I don't have a lot of pictures of us when we're working together because we're together. So there's a lot of collaboration that happens. As I mentioned to Ms. Garcia Pelayo, we said, hey, how are we going to do student-led conferences? It's the first time. The parents are expecting a big wow from us. They're expecting anything, whatever we do. If we do more than what They were anticipating, well, we know, we're close to getting to our goal. But there's a lot of collaboration that we've been doing, trying to put sustainable systems in place that work for all of us, TK to 9, which has been the challenge between all of us. There is constant collaboration, as I mentioned to you, Ms. McCann and Ms. Gutierrez. They're actually a team now. Now that they both teach first grade, now they actually have teaching buddies. Ms. Garcia Pelayo, who's our 4th and 5th grade teacher, and Mr. Casillas, who is our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade everything teacher. They're also a pair. She's actually his mentor. So they have a constant communication. She's the one that's supporting him through his induction program and has been doing a really good job. Her leadership has definitely supported Mr. Casillas, and her expertise has really supported the entire team. And then I actually collaborate as the 9th grade. I'm also the 9th grade teacher for the English. I actually collaborate closely with Mrs. Munoz, who is our education specialist. Hey, she pushes in, she sees what I'm doing. Is this working? Is it not working? I will give a shout out at the end to Miss Munoz, but she's been amazing. But we all have buddies that we've been paired up with, which is very, very needed because of our grade levels. We also have a lot of support from Miss Mara, who has been instrumental. I don't know where we would be instructionally if it wasn't for Miss Dr. Simmons. She's been coming in on Mondays and supporting us. So she is another co-pair planning thought partner for our teachers, because we teach everything. So it's very, very difficult. But just Dr. Simmons has been supporting a lot of my team. And Erica Najera has actually been supporting as well, giving constant professional development to our ed specialist, Ms. Hernandez Munoz. We try to collaborate. When we collaborate on Fridays, we try to do a lot of things. We love having Amy McCann on board, because she was like, hey, what about this? She's always the first one that has really good ideas of anything related to global. Amy's expertise has come in. She actually had a really nice idea. Let me go on to the next one and just kind of highlight the teacher leader, the teacher leader network. So Amy, I said, we're going to do, so the big picture that you see has to do with Dia de los Muertos. We have a very, very strong family and community partnerships going on that we're working on right now. So one of the best traditions that we were trying to start this year, one of them was to do common events across the 3 schools. And the first one was Dia de los Muertos. And we went all out. We said, let's see if we pull it off. And trust me, when I told the parents, can you come help? I had no idea it was going to turn in like this. Everything, I'm just shooting for the sky, shooting for the moon, and let's just see what happens. See if they say no. But the parents, I told them, I said, we need help. I need to put an altar together. Would you be willing to come in and help? And they said, yes. I said, I don't have time though. I can just show you stuff and then you all figure it out. And they put together this beautiful altar for us. It ended up being a community project. We had 32 photos that came in from the family. Mind you, at the time, we still hadn't even reached 100 enrollment, but we had 32 photos that actually showed up on the altar, including food. We invited the families to come in for the presentations. I did 4 presentations and opened it up to the community about what Dia de los Muertos was, showing them the different symbolism, what does the butterfly mean, the candles, just giving them an overview. And then I allowed them to take pictures at the end. It was a really beautiful moment. A lot of the families, as you can see, Mr. Barrientos here with Ria, they took pictures at the end, and it was really cute to see the TKers bring pictures of their grandparents and their parents coming together. It was really a beautiful moment. A lot of our families there are 2nd and 3rd generation Latinos. So they're also trying to connect with their roots for the first time. And you can see it in these events when they're learning, when they're participating with their students. So the education is not just for our students, it's also giving the global concept opportunity of learning to our parents as well when we open up our doors, like we did at this event. But Ms. McCann had the great idea of, hey, how about we all do an around the world presentation? And our parents and students loved it. After the Dia de los Muertos presentation, we also highlighted how the dead are honored around the world based off of the flags, the countries that we have on our flags of our classroom. If that made sense. But we had 8 classrooms, 8 different flags, and all the 8 flags, the teachers did a presentation about how they honored their loved ones. And when the students were looking at the presentation with our altar, they were able to see so many similarities, like, wow, Thailand has so many different things. Wow, I didn't realize, in Ethiopia, they were doing that. I didn't realize they felt more connected. We definitely felt more connected after this event. We invited the parents to the publishing party. That's the 4th and 5th grade class. Also, Ms. Garcia Pelayo. We've invited the parents to our first elementary tournament. And I took a bus. I rode the bus with 54 people. 54 people, mind you, my enrollment. So we're really getting a buzz out. Every opportunity that I have, I'm inviting the parents, and they're showing up. That picture there, you can see that is actually a screenshot from the soccer tournament. A parent tagged us. That weekend of the soccer tournament was really, really beautiful. I almost like was in tears just watching our social media and seeing, I didn't post any of this. All of this was posted by the parents. These are videos that the parents created. They were so proud and so happy. And our parents came through. Again, they helped me make sandwiches. They prepared 120 sandwiches. They put them on the bus for me. We made sure the kids were fed, and it was a happy family. And then you can see me on Friday. I was at the Lakeland Village Winterfest in Lake Elsinore, meeting with families, engaging and trying to recruit for next year. That is from for our lottery. So I'm still working on family partnerships and communities. And then I just wanted to highlight Miss Kayla Munoz, who I was mentioning is our ed specialist. And the pictures of her working, that literally is Kayla. When you go in there, she's in there working with students, whether it's really, really hands-on or just guiding them through the question. But Kayla has been incredible. I think I got lucky. It is really nice to hire people and not know why people are passing them up. And then when you see them, it's like, oh, she's amazing. I don't have to ask her for anything. As my co-teacher who comes into my English class, she comes in and I'm like, I'm not sure. They're struggling. They didn't get it. I think they needed a sentence start. And I'm just talking to myself. And then the next day she'll show up with the graphic organizer. She'll show up with sentence starters. She'll show up with, look at the digital library I made for us. Look at and I'm not even asking her for it. She just does it. And she's not just for me, but we've all joked among the staff and say, I don't know, Kayla is a good fairy godmother. She just shows up with tools and treats for the kids, and the kids love it. And that is, I think that's the end.
Dr. Correa, thank you very much for the report. I want to just congratulate you and your team. I don't know that anybody is probably watching us, which I hope they're at home resting or doing something else. But please extend my well wishes to them and their and all of the courage it takes to start a new school. Having seen schools start the first year, from ground up is always hard. You were thrown, your team and everybody in our system has been thrown lots of challenges as a result of starting this school. And you guys have done a lot of really great work to improve enrollment and to push out into the community and to start to develop what I hope will be a long 30-year time when you can look back. I've been able to be at schools where 5 or 6 of the people that started with the school day one are still at the school 15 to 20 years later. I hope that for your school, and I hope that for your team. These are the moments where, when times are tough, people do actually learn a lot about each other, and there's lots of really strong bonds built. And so I just want to tell you that we appreciate the effort that you and your team have put in. I know from talking to Colin and Karen and then Dr. Simmons and Alyssa that there's been a lot of support also from the organization, which is what we expect from our organization. But thank you, and thank your team for all that. So I just wanted to make sure that we tell you that, because it's the end of the year. You've made it from August. I mean, you're done. You're going to roll out 2025 is going to be done for you, and you're going to be able to say, we've finished that component.
Yes.
So thank you for that, and thank you for all the hard work. Any other questions, comments for this from the board?
I'm just so proud, right? And I know, again, we're new to the org, you're new. And I think that every time I hear you speak about what you're doing for this community, and you inspire me, right? And I've been a founding school leader, and it is you sacrifice a lot to for what you do, but you sacrifice it because this isn't work, right? This is what your calling is, and it really shows from all of the things that you're doing. And I'm just really excited and want to know more, like, what can we as a board, right? What can we do to support your efforts? So whether that's direct answers, but just know that Yeah, it's really inspirational to see all of the things. And I'm amazed. Like when you said you're teaching ninth grade, right? Like I was like, what? But then I was like, I used to teach ninth grade, right? And like all of the things that you're doing in your team of just to echo that, if you could just share our deep appreciation and an offering of support. And yeah, just very, very grateful for you and your leadership and your team.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
I remember that August presentation and I remember how passionate you were then, and it hasn't changed.
Hmm.
And actually, what struck me earlier was when you were sharing about attendance and you said, "Why are we so tired?" And right there, I was like, "Ooh, what supports can we provide?" Because I heard you say that multiple times. And there are some things that I would like to push the board and leadership to consider here, so that way we take care of those that take care of the students, right? I want you to think about what you would do with the time if you didn't have to teach, that only you could take care of. Because just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should, right? So don't make it aspirational. Oh, one day if we get, we have the right numbers, we have the right funding to have this teacher, then I would. No, just put it out in the universe and put the pressure on the right people to help make it happen. And it might just be that we need to fundraise for that, right? That's a worthy cause to fundraise for, given all that you're doing. If only people could get a glimpse of just how much weight you're carrying. Not just you, I know that it's also with this team, right? But you bear a great responsibility being able to voice all the wonderful things, but in a way that shines positivity for the community and your family while navigating challenges of the daily. But that's what I would want. I would want to hear, this is what I would do with that time that only I can do, and put it on us to try to make that happen as soon as possible for you. And the other thing that I wrote down here is, oh my goodness, the identity of this school is clearly so layered in all those special components that you all have put into place, mainly your vision, your mission aligned to what it means to be globally competent. I would push to ask, your team and the leadership to think through the legacy. What's the legacy of this school that will stand the test of time? So that in 20 years, when we talk about the founding members and what they were hoping to achieve and how it has changed and iterated over time, because it will change. But there are some components that are working for this community that need to be maintained. So I wrote here what will carry and what must be sacrificed as you continue to scale, because this school is going to be successful. You will ensure it, your team will ensure it, this board will support it. But think ahead now of what must stay to be part of that legacy and that identity that you are all creating, and what do you need in order to bring that to life? Because I'm sure you're an amazing ninth grade teacher, but also having taught ninth grade, I will never do it again. I love upperclassmen, I won't lie, but ninth graders are a special population that need a lot of love for sure. Their frontal cortex isn't developed yet, just science. But having said that, right, if we could give you that time and that energy back, imagine how much more amazing this school is going to be if she just had the time to dedicate to that. So I'm not asking for an answer right now, but I would like for you to just put it out there, make it clear. And you're not the only one who's going to help make it happen. That's, I feel like, on all of us to help you as well. So thank you for all that you do, and thank your team as well.
Thank you. Thank you for sure. I brought some, next week we have an event. So I did bring some flyers for you all.
Good. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and Dr. Carrillo, if I may, again, so much of what you've been doing, and I think investing in your families in the process it shows, right? Like all the things that you're sharing, and I think that's the right step. One thing that I didn't hear, and I think as an experience of being a part of it, is leveraging student leadership opportunities of how do we, again, all right, looking forward to it. And I'm sure, right? I'm sure it is, but in terms of when we talked about the survey, we talk about, aligning and the fact that you have high standards for your students, and that's maybe why they're like, oh my gosh, the rules, that's great, right? Like we want high standards. We don't want it to seem like this, it's work, but also thinking through how can we leverage leadership as we have founding students. So it's not just we say you're founding, but helping create the school that you're creating. So wonderful job.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving along, Arturo, it's 3.5, financial report for Icon.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Today, we're going to focus on the first interim budgets. So the 2 LA schools have been submitted, and the remaining schools will be submitted this week to the appropriate authorizers. So you'll be ratifying for the 2 LA schools, and then in January, we'll bring back the completed forms as we're working on transferring it to the authorizers' appropriate documentation. Starting off with the middle school, the first thing I do want to highlight is when you look at the ADA changes that we've done, we did try to be a little bit more conservative. So the ADA number you see here for the majority of the schools is actually lower than their year-to-date ADA through October. So that we want to make sure there was a little bit of a buffer with the cold and flu season coming, as well as if there were any other issues that are forthcoming. So with the middle school, the adjustments that you see are generally driven by current trends. So federal revenues is up a bit. That is title apportionment, as well as the claims for the National School Lunch Program for the middle school is trending higher than we had originally budgeted. So that's a big portion of that. And that also is a portion of the state nutritional reimbursements as they backfill to make sure that all students get a free lunch every day. So that's that increase. For other local revenues, your interest for the reserve on the middle school is trending a little bit higher, as well as an escrow payment that came out about $70,000 that fed into that. So total revenues are up about $275,000, even though we kept the ADA pretty similar to what it was at before. On the expenditure side, we did some minor tweaking on the certificated salaries, so not a big change there. On non-certificated, there was a couple of adjustments on some support aids, and then the employee benefits, the health coverage trend is a little bit higher than what we were expecting, and then adjustments based off of the above. For books and supplies, along with the trend up in reimbursements for lunch program, lunch costs were also trending up, so that's the majority in there. And then some forward purchases on materials and supplies. The 5000 series, the big increase there is repairs. So there were more repairs to start the school year than were anticipated. So we did have to make some increases to make sure that that aligned properly. And then the capital outlay was updated by our finance team. So that's your capital cost that it's being expanded out. So overall expenditures went up. Your net income does show a negative number, but a lot of that is driven by the fact that we're utilizing restricted funds from prior years. So your unrestricted fund balance at the end of the year is actually going to be up about $231,000. So, and some of those restricted funds that are being utilized are primarily ELOP. So a lot of ELOP funds that we want to make sure gets utilized. Some prior educator effectiveness funds, as well as some prior PD funds that we want to make sure that get expensed before their deadline. Below that, you see the budget versus actuals through October, which is what carries the first interim. So generally on track. Books and supplies, which is a little bit above, which we expect as we kind of load off on materials at the beginning of the year. Vista Heritage, so we did adjust their ADA a little bit more, little 1.22 down versus where we were at in September. However, their ADA through October is above this, so I just want to remind you of that. But the difference in the LCFF is driven by that difference. Small increase in federal revenues for title apportionments. Other state revenues are down primarily by that ADA for SPED, et cetera. Then other local revenues, just a slight increase there. But overall, revenues are pretty flat. On the expenditure side, so on the staffing, we had a long-term sub under the 2000 series, but they're primarily being paid out of the 1000 series now, so we made that adjustment up there. So, overall, very small increase, about $4,000. Benefits were pretty much online. Same thing with books and supplies, and a small increase in the 5000 series. So overall, the small drop in LCFF, a little bit of an increase in expenditures, that led that number from -27 to -42, but their unrestricted is positive 341. So Heritage has restricted funds from ELOP that we're really dipping into, as they have quite a bit in there. Similar in terms of educator effectiveness, some remaining arts and music grant funds, and some of their CTE funds that were paid in prior years as well. So that's kind of getting driven by those restricted funds that are being utilized now. Looking at their budget versus actuals, so across the board, they're under 33% through October, so in a good spot. Vista Condor. So we actually increased their ADA, and their actual ADA through October is significantly higher than this, about 588 points. So Condor is the strongest school at the moment in terms of where their enrollment and where their ADA percentage is at. So you do see LCFF increase quite a bit there, about $51,000. Their first title apportionment was also up. Some and other state revenues, ELOP, we're utilizing additional ELOP and Prop 28. So those are some increases in revenues there. Their local is pretty much flat. On the expenditure side, small increases to additional support in ELOP for the classified side. But overall, expenditures are pretty much aligned with where we were at before. So their net income went up. We are utilizing restricted funds as well. So their unrestricted fund balance is actually up even higher, about $566,000. And percentage to date, again, pretty much on board, a little bit above on the 4,000, 5,000 series, but those for prepayments on some items. Vista Horizon, we dropped their ADA a little bit, but they do have a higher title apportionments coming in, which is the increase on the federal. And then they're one of two schools that are getting a literacy grant from the state. So we were able to input that in, as they are going to be utilizing that to hire back on an intervention coordinator. So you see that on the increases on the certificate salary side. They're also utilizing additional ALOP funds. And so with additional ALOP support, and you see that increase as well in the 2000 series. And then some minor adjustments in the 4,000, a little bit in the 5,000 series, but not a lot. So a small change for them, went from 60,000 net income to 52, but their unrestricted fund balance is actually up over $270,000 for the year. And their budget versus actuals, are all under 33%, so in a very healthy spot. Palm Lane, so we had two adjustments for there. One is lower ADA number, but also lower unduplicated pupil percentage. So that dropped them down about $32,000 in LCFF. Their title apportionment initially from the state is also a little bit lower, about 5,000. Other state revenues are up 148. That's primarily driven by additional ALOP expenditures. And so when you look at the expenditure side, don't see a lot of adjustments until you get to the 5,000 series, and that's additionally ELOP services and vendors that are kind of coming on board. So we're able to use more of their apportionment for the current year. Their net income, so they're progressing in the correct direction. That negative net income continues to get smaller, and their unrestricted fund balance continues to grow up. So about 249,000 currently at the first interim. And their percentage to date, so under 33, except for books and supplies, and there were some purchases made for one of their main classrooms, I think a STEM classroom. So that is why that's up for the 4,000 series. Okay. Now to the tougher schools. So first, Vista Meridian. So we did drop their ADA almost 3 points. They also have a little bit of a lower UPP percentage. So their LCFF is down about $55,000. That drives a little bit in other state revenue, so about 5,000 there. They are getting additional Prop 28, which is their arts and music supporting funds. And with the help of Dr. Real, looking like we're able to locate and get additional CTE funds for some positions. So that's what's there. The spread reduction is a typo, so please ignore that. On the expenditure side, so they are on 2 split campuses. And when we were looking at the budget in September, we did make some recommendations on staffing, but with that split campus situation, it's difficult. So currently we're looking at making 1 less staff adjustment, and that's why you see that increase overall. With additional Prop 28 money, we added a TA for the back half of the year to continue to provide some support. And the 4,000 series, the big amount there, you saw that in the prior months where we had that big, they were way above in terms of the 4,000 series because they bought that Annotage table that was about $120,000. but it's covered by a grant, but that grant was received in prior years. So even though we did get additional grants, it doesn't utilize all of the revenue. So it's prior year grant revenue. So their expenditures, net income went continually negative to 218, but their unrestricted fund balance is only negative 140. And that's really driven by that difference in the ADA that we made on that adjustment. So when you look at that 54, that's what's driving that 95 to the unrestricted net of 140. That additional funds are CT funds from prior year revenues that we're utilizing now in this year. And that's also when you look at the budget versus actuals, why the 4,000 series is so high at 51% is because of that one big time purchase of 100 and I think it was about $112,000 for that table. So that's why that's higher on that part. Right. Vista Lago. So we kept their ADA the same. The reason for that is they're still growing towards that ADA on that higher enrollment. They are making some big growth. So at the end of October, their ADA was a little bit just under 81. And at the end of November, they jumped up to about 84. So 388 point growth in that time frame. So we're with a higher, 108 students. We're expecting to see that ADA get to about 91, 92. Not sure if it'll get above that. Some of the expenditures and why you see some additional local revenues for facility financing is there are additional costs in terms of the building and the facility for the future. We're expecting to get some of those costs reimbursed by the facility financing, so that's offset a bit. But there were some additional expenditures and items that weren't covered before. So there were computers that were purchased expending 170 students, and we have 100 students, so that was higher than what we had before. Additional expenditures for setting up with a facility, as it's a unique place with modulars versus an actual facility. So there were additional costs for phone, for network setup, security, etc. So we moved some of the capital outlay to help cover a portion of that, but it's still, significantly higher. So that's why you see that big increase in total expenditures, about 260,000. So it did drive that net income, unfortunately, even further down from 497 to 723 currently. And when you look at the budget versus actuals, you do see the 4,000, the 5,000 series significantly above 33%, but it's those bigger expenditures off at the beginning. So it is going to be a tight situation as they move forward through the rest of the year. And, hopefully, as they continue to grow their enrollment, getting close to that 92 ADA, if not above it, when we do second interims, we can hopefully show a better picture. And then none of these numbers include any of the attendance recovery funds that were mentioned before. So that'll also be incremental when we get. And then,
Let me ask a couple questions.
Yeah.
Just because appreciate the breakdown, but when we look at Vista Meridian and Vista Lago, right? Like, what actions are what do we need to take in order to move to a place where they're going to be financially stable?
Yeah. So I think both Lago is easy, it's enrollment,
Yeah.
right? So it's just driving that enrollment, starting off in a new facility with under 100 students, and then with this unique situation in terms of installing modulars and not moving into a building, I think I had a lot of additional costs for it. So I think as they're progressing and they get the right enrollment numbers, they'll have some tight years because they have to have some operating income in the next couple of years to offset this year, but they seem to be trending in the correct direction. For Meridian, it's also similar. It's getting their enrollment back to where they were last year because they're below this year. So it's making sure you get to enrollment and then to attendance. That has been one area where their ADA is one of the few where it's been, heading in the direction we're not, we don't want. Their facility situation is also unique as they're split. So there's, some costs with that, with some staffing, et cetera. So it's trying to find a long-term solution for that to help minimize some costs and make it more efficient. And then just the outstanding checks, which will be shared with the board, and then the check register. Any other questions?
Okay. I'm not going to ask any questions, but I'm just going to point to Condor and look at the difference when ADA goes up.
Yep.
And how that changes the budget. So if that doesn't convince anybody, we should be focusing our attention on enrollment and attendance.
Yeah.
It might be a good cost. Okay.
And I guess for my thing is as we make it through the year, right, and we end up with a net income that, is negative, do we have cash on reserve? Where would that money come from?
So the two schools, Lago and Meridian, always have cash flow issues, especially Lago as a new school because they don't get funding from the state till later on. So they currently are getting funded by cash flow loans from one of the other sites, primarily Palm Lane. So that's what's giving them working cash flow. The key is then future years having a positive income to help repay that and offset the negative balance that they currently have on their books.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Arturo. Okay, moving on to our action items. So 4.1 travel costs. Any staff comments?
Yes, so this is for some administrators and instructional coaches to attend the Kagan Winter Academy in Las Vegas in February, as well as Dr. Real and two Meridian counselors to attend the Dual Enrollment Equity Conference in San Diego, and that one's in March. And that one would be paid through with Golden State Pathway funds, and the Kagan one primarily would be paid with remaining educator effectiveness funds.
Okay, great. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, with the motion as second, any questions or discussion? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye. Okay, I heard everybody. 3 passes unanimously. Moving on, 4.2, Charter School Compliance Monitoring Board Review for Vista Charter School, Charter Middle School, and Horizon Global. Dr. Felch?
So this is an annual certification. We do this every December for the LAUSD authorized schools. For us, it's Vista Charter Middle School and Horizon. Shows that we're in compliance with items such as verification of background checks, TB tests, credentialing, our board meetings, and proper safety and emergency procedures.
Great. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion.
Oh.
Oh, a second.
Okay, motion and second. Any discussion, questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. You said aye, Kelly, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, sorry, I just wasn't looking. Okay, that carries unanimously. Moving on to 4.3. This is the ratification of the first interim budget reports that we just heard from Arturo. I don't think we need any staff comments on that. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay. Any questions? Nope. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. 4.4 VCPS Suspension Expulsion Procedures Board Policy. Dr. Felch, you want to give us context?
Yeah, so all of our schools individually have suspension and expulsion procedures in element 10 of their own charter petitions. However, the Vista board has never adopted a board policy. So this board policy is aligned with what's in each of our charter petitions, but it's really centralizing the policy and adopting it from the board's perspective.
Great. Okay. Motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and a second. Any questions?
I did, because we're doing similar process in our district, and some things that I thought were very clear and strong was like the detailed expulsion hearing process, the commitment and clear line IDA section 504, but the things that were missing were like reentry process, right? And like due process for families in terms of suspensions, and also like clear definitions. So like as I was reading that, like the document, like I did not know who the principal, I know like working in schools, but like who's the principal designee, the officers. I've taken some other notes of like, there was also nothing in there in terms of not reentry. The stated that we cannot suspend like for willful defiance, which is like the new California law. So I was curious, was this written by like our legal team? I would recommend before we vote to approve that this needs to be like gone through with a little bit more detail of things to include for definitions and process, because it just seemed like there was some things that were omitted in the law that could get us in trouble.
Okay. Is there a timing issue for this policy?
There's not, no.
Okay, so, okay, so do you want to just withdraw the motion and
Table.
we'll not take action on it? Or we could table it? Table it?
I have a follow-up question though. So
Sure,
if
go ahead.
each of the school
Before we-
sites though are implementing this, and this is just not a board policy, and there are potential issues with it aligning legally, are there issues?
I'll have
with
legal
that?
review that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna move to table that item, and do we have to take a vote on that?
No,
I don't
you
think
can
so,
just
right?
move
Just
to table.
it, right?
Mhm.
Okay, 4.5, Director of Schools and Growth Description and Salary. Dr. Felch.
Yes, so we'd like to, this is more of an adjustment of a title from the communication and growth to community schools and growth, because this position in reality is half of the work is with community schools. And with our all of our schools being community schools, it's aligning the job responsibilities better with the actual duties. This also in turn would allow this position to be half funded through the community schools grants, whereas currently the position is fully funded out of general funds. So that's the recommendation to better align with the actual duties of this position, and then also be able to leverage the grant.
Okay, great. I'll take a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion, questions? Okay. Oh,
No,
go
I
ahead.
do. For the title of this role, I actually, when I first read it, I thought it was a development officer that it read like, because it says and growth.
Mhm.
And so then I thought, oh, this is exciting. You'll have somebody who's thinking about raising the funds needed, right, to sustain what is. Can you share a little bit about the thought behind?
There is some element with that. So there growth does include development. It also includes facility development. So it's growth in multiple manners, and that is included in the job description.
Okay, and then does this growth also include potential online learning? And I mean, when I think of a global school, I also think, I wonder how many students would be able to attend this in a different fashion. Yeah.
So not explicitly. That would also be a charter petition type thing, because our current charter petitions are in-person learning. So, but I mean, that's something that we could discuss later.
Thank you.
Questions? Okay, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Okay, that motion carries 3-0. Moving on to 4.6, ratification of Western Governors University Educator Placement Agreement. Dr. Felch.
Yeah, so we've done this with other universities. This would allow Vista Schools then to receive student teachers and other education practitioners going through that university. However, the impetus behind this is with one of our current teachers at Vista Charter Middle School, Mr. Morales, is doing his master's program at Western Governors University, and this would allow him to conduct his field observations at Vista Charter Middle School.
Okay, we'll look for a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion, questions? I'll just say I'm super excited to see that. I like to see research done by our employees and to kind of have dual purposes for things. So thanks for that. I'll call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that goes unanimously. 4.7, school-wide action plan for Vista Meridian Global.
Yeah, so this is to transition Vista Meridian from targeted assistance, which is the default for Title I, to a school-wide program. And this is again for Title I funding and reporting. We've done each of our previous schools have applied or done school-wide programs, and so now it's Meridian's turn to do that. It makes it a lot easier and cleaner, especially for schools that have 99% free or reduced lunch, to be school-wide program schools, because for a targeted assistance school, for each like utilization of Title I funds, you have to say that this is used for this group of students. This when basically all of our students are Title I eligible. It's much cleaner and easier for reporting purposes.
Understood. Okay, looking for a motion.
A motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions, discussion?
I did. So
Mhm.
in terms of this plan, Is this so this, where did this plan was already in place? You're now just moving this to another, or was this created as an application?
Yeah, so this is it's not any new information. It's basically taken from LCAPs and things like that into more of this school-wide Title I school-wide plan format. Um, and it's supposed to have been done as like a comprehensive assessment or review of the program and what we're doing and why it should be a Title I school, yeah, or a school-wide school.
And so on that note, because when I read that,
Mhm.
something that stood out to me was that there's a clear, right, based on last year's 11th grade data,
Mhm.
that we had 0%, right, mathematics
Mhm.
in terms of,
Mhm.
met or exceeded the standards. And then I didn't see anything in the plan directly to address it. Was that something that was done intentional, or is that something that is, do you understand what I'm saying? If we're
I do,
trying to
yeah.
apply, we look at that data point and I didn't see anything underlying that was like specific to address that. Is that a concern for the application?
No, it shouldn't be a concern for the application itself. Um, I'm trying to remember it in
I did.
detail. It might have been in a different section because I think certain sections were just showing the data, and then other sections should have been more about like the plan and the interventions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would like to know, right, in terms of what we're doing there, right, in terms of accelerating the math, because it's a
Yeah.
clear need in the red dashboards, right? Making sure our students are getting what they need.
Okay.
Yeah, and on this item, I will make a comment, because our population is so high as far as socioeconomic disadvantage, I support us doing this. I do think we have to continue to monitor how we're targeting funds to our socioeconomically disadvantaged students. There's always an incentive to try to handle these things and bring the level of the purpose of the funding to a different, to students who aren't really qualified for that funding. So I do want us to continue to look at that and keep watching that. It's not a question for us because you look at our numbers and we are school-wide, but there are a lot of other schools that are, and districts that have taken this kind of approach to really diffuse Title I funding into non-socioeconomically disadvantaged students, which is not the purpose or, I think, a smart decision. So, okay, I'll call a question. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, that motion carries unanimously. We're on to 4.8, board resolution withdrawing from membership of schools excess liability fund. Go
Yep.
ahead.
So we've had something similar to this back in the spring. And so the deadline to give notice to self for the excess liability fund is December 31st in order to have the ability to change excess liability providers beginning July 1st, 2026. And so this resolution and notice gives us the option. We don't have to change, but at least this gives us the flexibility to see what else is out there. I don't believe that we have ever explored that in the past. And with the rising insurance rates, I think it would be prudent for us to at least take a look.
Look for a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, any questions, discussions?
A quick question about that, just because you're presenting this as an option for the future,
Mhm.
then, but we're approving for you all to be able to withdraw now. Will we have a discussion if there's a decision to change?
Absolutely. It would have to come to board approval. Yeah, whatever direction we go in.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And if you had to, you could re-enter
Correct.
a resolution
Yeah.
for
Mhm.
this particular entity.
Exactly.
I like flexibility, so, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that carries unanimously. All right. I'm not sure I can move the meeting forward any further. Okay. Yeah, what happens if there's no second?
I know,
Yeah.
I was like,
Um,
how do I?
Okay, we're moving on to 4.9, the resignation of board member Dr. Kelly Lee, effective January 27th, 2026. Did you want to say anything before?
Well, I'm going to keep my comments to the January board meeting, but this is really more of the formality since Dr. Lay did give me the notice that she does intend to resign from the board after the January board meeting, that the board does need to ultimately put the stamp on that approval.
Yeah. I'm going to look for a motion.
We're gonna be here all night.
I motion.
I'll second this particular begrudgingly, and then we'll start discussions and questions, but we probably won't do that.
No, we won't, but
Uh,
all I will share just very quickly is, you know, I'm a first generation scholar. I'm from inner city LA. And when Dr. Felch approached me for this opportunity, I really appreciated being able to lean in with my leadership. And I thank you all so much for your patience with all of my questions, but I felt that that was in our responsibility to be as transparent as possible. And I'm sure we'll have more comments at the final meeting, but I just wanted to say this is such an exciting time for Vista, and I'm going to continue to celebrate and support from the sidelines. But you know, this is an exciting time for growth and opportunity. That's just what I gather every time I come to these meetings and every time I get the newsletters and all of that. So again, I thank you all so much for all that you do for students like me that, you know, sometimes go unseen and fall through the cracks.
I'm going to wait till January to make my comments, but I've already made it hard enough. But I do want to say tonight, we appreciate everything that you've done and your commitment to the board and the questions. We'll talk more about it in January, but thank you. I know this is not, I know you're doing the right thing, and I also know that we appreciate what you've done. So, okay. Anything tonight?
I've just learned a lot from you, and we'll continue to carry those lessons forward, and really, you know, we'll save it for January, but yeah, but you've made an indelible impact already, so important.
Okay, well, I will call for, I guess we have to vote.
Yeah.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to 4.10. All right, Dr. Phelps.
Yeah, so I was approached with the opportunity for Vista to participate in this research study with UC Irvine a few weeks ago, and it seems really interesting. So the purpose of this study is to understand more about how children from different cultures think and learn, specifically how to understand how children learn to direct their attention and solve problems independently. And this research team is investigating children from different cultures across the US and Mexico. So this is for students ages 5 through 9, sorry, 5 through 7, so approximately kindergarten through second grade. And so we were actually recommended to the research team by Magnolia Science Academy, who's participating in this study. And I've reached out to our Orange County elementary schools, so Ms. Alessandro and Ms. Prado, about Palm Lane and Condor potentially participating in this study. There is no cost to the school. The benefit is that we will receive a report back, as well as some potential free professional development from the researchers. And the students and parents get a little incentive as well. So the students get a free book, and the parents get $40 for participating. But it does require, obviously, parent consent.
Okay, great. I'll look for a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, any questions?
All I can share is Dr. Richland is incredible. And given that you all are going to receive this support, which I've been dying to see since I got on, right? Working with our local higher education faculty to be able to do some of these things for us and to codify the work. I highly recommend that throughout the study, either working with her, research associates, her graduate students, to have them look at the survey protocols that you all have put together for the other purposes that we've discussed tonight. You have a researcher who is clearly very, very talented in asking the right questions to get to the root of a problem. And given that it's supposed to be a mutually beneficial relationship, I don't see any problem with also asking for support with looking at some of the other topics, especially because she is excellent in working with students. Have her take a look at that student survey and just ask, what are some alternatives that you've seen? Because I know that she does work with videos, et cetera, as well, very successfully.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Just a quick question. Do we know how, like, what extent, if a student wants to participate in their families, what's their participation look like for the study?
Yeah, so it is 2 hour session, 2 1 hour sessions, and they will come to the school, and it's up to an hour. It depends on the student's attention span and with the activities. So they try to integrate into the back of the classroom, so the student isn't really pulled out too much. So they'll just work in the back of the classroom with the student, doing a few activities, and it won't be like a full hour at a time. It might be like 15 minutes here, 20 minutes here.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions, discussion?
Follow-up question. Research studies take a long time, right? So that report that will be very important to see will take time, but I'm curious to know how she's planning to share it with you all. It can't just be delivered as paper. So I would love if she had an opportunity to share with the families, like, this is all the brilliance that I've learned,
Mhm.
right? And it adds a level of credibility is not the word, but knowing the parents knowing that there's a partnership with UCI
Mhm.
and that this type of study is done to improve student outcomes and achievement, et cetera, right? I think that that could be appealing as well. And usually in a grant, they do put aside funding for different ways to share results. Maybe she'd be willing to spend some of that grant money on a culminating event for those that were in the study and families to come and attend and hear about it. So
Yeah.
I would find out more about that budget if I were you. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for that. Okay, take a vote on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that proves 3-0. All right, we are now down to board comments. I will start with the right side.
I just
Go again. If you want. You don't have to. You can pass if you'd like.
I mean, I continue to be amazed. I mean, it's such a late night. Everybody is super engaged in hearing from each other and supporting each other. And yeah, I would like to see more of the stories that I know are being told here and in the background because the efforts are incredible. And again, I want to applaud all of our school leaders. You all do so much as it is, but we don't want to sit up here and offer empty support, right? We can be as encouraging as possible, but you have to put the pressure on us to help you to bring in the funding, to help you bring in the right partners, to help you with some of the items that we've mentioned. And we all show up in different ways. So again, thank you all so much for what you do.
Yeah, I also just want to take a moment to recognize our school leaders. I think I shared this last time, but taking the time to submit your like principal reports, I know is probably the last thing that you want to do, but um, like hearing about the All It Takes SCL retreat that you took your students on, right? And like that you also are partnering with Horizon for events for attendance at Meridian, right? Like those are things that are helpful for us to see outside of being on your site to know that you guys are making a big difference in lives. And like you putting that the chronic absenteeism rates are down 10% and that LACO's maybe going to ask you to present at a conference for your Ohana festival, right? Like there's so many things that are happening across our campuses. And I just want to highlight and celebrate you all, but also really this is an important time of year where a lot of people think that like self-care is like a luxury, but it's a responsibility in leadership. And so you can only meet people as far as you met yourselves, and just to like hear all that you're doing, just make sure to take care of yourselves and put yourselves first over the break. And please continue to ask us and advocate to us. I feel like we're here learning, right? But what more that we can do to support as a board to make sure that you guys can continue to be at your best. And so if you hear us asking questions and it doesn't seem like we're fully understanding, let us know, right? And please reach out because we want to make sure that the direction and the questions that we're asking are aligned to the things that you guys are seeing on your site. So thank you.
Yeah, and I just wanted to focus on the holiday. He said it so well. I don't know if I can follow up on that. I was going to just wish everyone in our community a happy holidays and to take the time that you need. We've got some good time to try to relax and try to regenerate. This will be the last board meeting. This is the last board meeting of this year, which is hard to believe that we're going to be in January when we come back. And I know you guys will be there even quicker with the schools. So please enjoy that time and thank you for all that you're doing. We want to extend that to your staff and through you all to our community that you all serve because, 1,500 to 2,000 students that we have in our system and the day-to-day issues that you all deal with to make sure that that runs as smoothly as it does and as effectively student first where we're trying to that mission. That's the stuff that is really important to those people. And the stories are important that we get from that we talked about. And so I will just say the impact, take some time to think about the impact of that conversation you had with that one student today or the staff member, because they will remember those moments maybe for the rest of their lives. And it may be the reason they shift their path to a path that makes them feel better about how they succeed and have opportunity in their life. So thank you for that. We're going to go out into, and let me just end with Palm Lane Wednesday. I was happy to be at the public hearing and see that community in great form, sharing what they do and how they do it. So I'm looking forward to that on the 10th and having that renewal past us so that we can celebrate the renewal and the rebirth of the Palm Lane School one more time. So congratulations to everybody. We'll see you. We're going to go to closed session. We'll be back, but we don't expect you to be here. Have a good night. Oh, and officially we're adjourned to closed session. Okay, I will reconvene us from closed session. There are no reportable items. I guess I should sit down so I'm on camera. Right. There are no reportable items from closed session, and I will now look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Okay, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned at 8:47. Thank you, and we will see you in January.
Thank you. Did you want us to rip off that last page again? Of the closed session stuff so it can be shredded? Oh, I did.
I didn't do-
Yeah.